not sure.
Well, I just know we've been involved with so many different agencies.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if this came over. I also noticed here on the penalties, it says notice of civil violation. Whenever there are reasonable grounds to believe that a violation of this chapter has occurred or is occurring, the city is authorized to issue a notice of civil violation. Gee, that must be interesting that we go out and start now working penalty if we're not complying.
Tax collectors.
So,
Along those lines, regarding the penalties, this is geared towards people, not corporations or businesses, from this penalty section. You'll notice in, like this is page 12, under B2, where B starts out with notice of civil violation. Whenever there's reasonable grounds to believe that there's a violation of this chapter has occurred or is occurring, the city is authorized to issue a notice of civil violation which shall contain the following: the name and address of the person or persons to whom the violation is directed. Now, if this CTR code is directed towards a business, why would a person be personally liable for compliance with the code? I mean, who is this affecting directly, do you know?
Not sure, just conjecture, probably the person that owns the business possibly, is responsible for the business, but it's just conjecture. I'll have to get back to you on that too.
Okay.
Mr. Reservoir.
Okay. Yeah, there are several things that are very troubling to me about this. And one, on the previous page, on page 11, is under violations. The failure to self-identify as an affected employer. Now, from what I understand, right now, when this is in our minds, and every year or two, whenever we come to think about amending this code, it's going to come from our minds. Okay, we're a small enough town that we can name on one hand how many employers we have that are even potentially close to being affected. However, it's not the job of the company to search. I mean, they say, I've got 50 employees. Going to hire another 100 employees this summer. We're going to just expand and do some great things. It's not their job at that point to go out and search for code that they need to go start complying with. All right, I've got more than 100 employees. There's got to be a law I need to start complying with now. So by us keeping that in there, we're really putting them in some jeopardy that I don't think is wise. I think it would be wise for us to assume the burden of identifying for employers should we have to actually pass this thing and have any teeth with it. So there are several parts where I've listed, or I should say, I've noted that because it's in several different parts of the code.
Can
Yeah,
just
good.
Would that be something, and I hate to give anyone ideas, but is that something that would need to be added to our business license? That they would have to fill out their employee status or level at the beginning of each year, every time they renew that license? Is that how we would monitor that?
Could.
Yeah.
I mean, the question's out there on where is the question on the applications now? Business
The
license
questions on the application, we haven't
We haven't had-
monitored it to make sure people fill it in. We're just really wanting their UBI number and their basic information of where they're at. We haven't needed to use it.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Well, quite frankly, even if you don't adopt this, there's probably good reasons for us to ask that question anyway, just to be able to track how many people are actually employed within the city limits itself, and some other pieces in there that may only come off of that. Molly?
Well, it would seem to me, just from the discussion tonight, that we have a more
Questions?
philosophical discussion to come, and I would agree with that. I think we need to discuss the philosophy of CTR. What are the consequences of not following the mandate? Do we put it in code or not? But I honestly don't think we're ready to do it next Monday.
I agree with you there.
Mhm.
And specifically, there is a potential way out of this, and we need to explore this as a possibility, and that comes under penalties. Specifically, it says the penalty number 3 is, the penalty is specifically $100 per violation per day. And after you've been notified, then it's $250 per day for each violation. If we were to reduce that to $1 per year, we'd still, from my understanding, we'd still be in compliance with the state law, because the state law, from my reading of the RCWs, doesn't require, I mean, through all their code, they just say, you set the penalties. They didn't tell us what it was. So we could gut the whole thing and make it say it's physically uneconomical for us to pursue this. So we put it in code, but we're not gonna enforce it in essence. And I don't wanna be flippant about this, but we have two basic options from what I understand. From what I understand, we do fall under the mandate of having to put the CTR in because so many of our residents commute over the I-5 bridge, which is the tripping point. That's the congestion corridor that makes us subject to the CTR. So then we take a look at our one employer who currently qualifies as an affected employer, and I would lay money on the table that most of their employees spend maybe 10 minutes driving to work, something like that, maybe. And I don't think that their employees are anyway a factor, and I would hope that we would.
We have someone from Pendleton here that can answer that question.
Right, and I would hope that even in Pendleton's case, that we could recognize that obviously they aren't the problem. The problem would be everybody driving over the I-5 bridge, which we can't enforce because we don't have their employers here.
Michael, there's somebody from Pendleton that may be able to address your question.
I'm sorry,
She's
Susan,
on
I
a
just.
different topic that I would like to bring
I am
before
on a
the
different topic,
council.
but I would imagine that probably 75% would fall into the 10-minute rule.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a very small portion of people who come from Vancouver, which is 20 minutes, and an even smaller amount that come from Portland.
Yeah, so putting this into practice for Pendleton just seems like we're just checking boxes to make people happy, but that
Yeah.
diverts time that we use for other things. There are typos, by the way, that I think we need to make sure, and if you want, I can give you those typos real quickly. But I can also just email them to you if you want.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, once we're done with this topic, if I could presume on the council and allow Susan to speak on a separate topic rather than wait until the very end, would that be acceptable? I know this is kind of unusual in our policy.
The reality on this CTR is that we just, if we pass it as it's written, it's just a formality. We have never gone out and pursued this with an employer, and I suspect we're not gonna start tomorrow. And I don't wanna ruin any chances down the road of funding, so I think it's imperative that we run this by Monday night, get it done, and we can then pursue our concerns. It's not a big issue today.
And furthermore, I really think that it's, should be discretionary and not mandated. I mean, I realize that we do have some state mandates, but I think this is a topic that for a business should be there at their discretion, whether they choose to utilize this or not. And it is a little bit too over the top.
It's
for the
wishful
state
thinking.
to
It's wishful thinking.
enforce it, yeah.
We might all have to talk after a meeting some night with you if you decide to implement this and have somebody out there running up and down the street trying to make it work. We have better places to spend our money.
I don't think you'll see that coming. Dave?
I'm
I
trying
like
to
what-
hear your direction, pardon?
I like what Molly just said. I could actually support this atrocity if it were voluntary for employers. The other thing is, this has got all kinds of